What if I told you that most people today are living in quiet defeat, not because they lack talent, but because they lack mental strength? We scroll, we compare, we envy, and then we wonder why we feel stuck, weak, or lost. We chase comfort, yet feel exhausted. We avoid pain, yet suffer daily. The truth is hard. Comfort is killing us slowly, while struggle, though harsh, holds the seed of real power. But here's the twist. The ancient Stoics knew this long before smartphones, social media, or self-help books. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not just a quote. That's a weapon, a mindset, a way to live in chaos and remain unshaken. Stoicism doesn't make life easy. It makes you unstoppable. In this video, we're diving deep into 8 brutal Stoic laws that will force you to level up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Not inspirational fluff. Real talk, real change. Each of these laws is drawn from raw Stoic truth, battle-tested in ancient Rome, and still painfully relevant today. Before we begin, I need you to do one thing. If you're serious about growth, don't just sit back and watch this like another motivational clip. This isn't background noise, this is your wake-up call. Like this video right now, drop a comment as we go through, especially when a point hits hard. Share it with someone who needs this. And most importantly, don't skip any part, because even one missed law could cost you clarity or courage in a moment that matters most. Let's begin. Number 1, embrace discomfort like a friend. We've been taught to run from pain, but the Stoics taught the opposite. Run toward it, eyes open. Think about your greatest growth moment. Did it happen when you were comfortable, relaxed, and everything was easy? Or did it happen when life punched you in the face and you had to choose, rise or stay broken? Marcus Aurelius faced wars, betrayal, illness, and still led with calm. He didn't avoid discomfort, he invited it to shape him. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That's Marcus Aurelius. That's not poetic fluff. That's law. Every obstacle is a chance to sharpen your will. Every delay is a test of patience. Every rejection is a teacher of resilience. Modern life tells us, avoid pain. Stoicism whispers back, train for it. That cold shower? A test. That hard conversation? A path. That gym session when you're exhausted? That's where your character's being carved. The Stoics believe that by choosing controlled discomfort, you prepare for the chaos of life. So when the storm hits, you're already built for it. Seneca, another Stoic, practiced sleeping on the floor, eating plain food, wearing old clothes. Not out of self-hate, but self-training. Why? Because then when life strips away your comfort, you're not shocked. You're ready. And here's the truth. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's your mirror. It shows you who you really are, and more importantly, who you're becoming. We avoid small pain today only to suffer bigger pain tomorrow. But if you lean in, walk through that fire with awareness, something wild happens. You stop fearing the pain. And that's the beginning of freedom. From now on, see discomfort like a sparring partner. It might bruise you, but it's building you. Choose one small discomfort today and do it. No debate. Cold shower, deep talk, sit with boredom. Remind yourself this is how warriors are forged. Because the only way to become unstoppable is to stop running. Discomfort is my training ground. Number 2, stop being owned by your emotions. How often do your emotions control your day? Someone says something rude and you snap. Plans change and your whole mood shifts. You feel lazy, so you skip the gym, the work, the discipline. It's not just you, it's all of us. But the brutal truth, if you are ruled by your emotions, you are a slave to them. The Stoics believed that slavery to emotion is worse than chains on your wrists. Epictetus, a former slave turned Stoic teacher, said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. They can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by them." And let that sink in. That person who cut you off in traffic, you just handed them your peace. That breakup, you handed it your identity. That one rude comment online, you gave it your joy. You see, Stoicism doesn't ask you to ignore emotions. It teaches you to observe them, understand them, and respond instead of react. The difference between a child and a Stoic? The child throws a tantrum. The Stoic sits in the storm and thinks. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, wrote in his private journal, which became Meditations, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's the kind of control we rarely talk about. The power to not be shaken by what doesn't deserve our energy. And yes, it's brutal because it means you can't blame others anymore. You can't say, "He made me mad," or "She ruined my day." You realize it's all you. The reaction was your choice. But here's the empowering part. You can choose again. You don't have to be a slave to your feelings. You can feel anger without acting in anger. You can feel fear and still move forward. You can feel sadness without drowning in it. That's emotional strength. That's Stoic freedom. Try this next time you feel triggered. Pause, don't act, breathe. Ask, is this feeling useful right now? Respond with intention. This isn't being robotic, it's being in control. When you stop being owned by your emotions, you become clear, calm, powerful. You show up steady and people notice. You don't get pushed around by every little thing anymore. You're grounded. And in today's emotionally chaotic world, that kind of stability is rare. It's magnetic. It's unstoppable. Real growth begins when you stop being a puppet and start being the master. Number 3, stop expecting fairness. Life owes you nothing. One of the fastest ways to suffer is to expect life to be fair. Let that settle for a second. You work hard and someone lazier gets the promotion. You love deeply and they walk away. You do the right thing and still get punished. And then the anger comes. This isn't fair. But here's the Stoic truth. Fairness is a myth we create, not a rule of the universe. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You can commit injustice by doing nothing." Even he, Emperor of Rome, saw injustice every day. But instead of whining, blaming, or spiraling into despair, he grounded himself in one unshakable idea. Life is not about fairness. Life is about strength. The Stoics never expected life to treat them kindly. They expected pain, loss, betrayal, change. And because they expected it, they were ready for it. Let's get brutally honest. Fairness is a beautiful idea, but it can also make you weak if you cling to it too tightly. When we say, "This isn't fair," what we're often saying is, "I don't like how this feels and I don't want to deal with it." But here's the law. You don't grow by expecting fairness. You grow by facing reality and moving forward anyway. Look around. Bad things happen to good people. Evil people sometimes win. Effort doesn't always equal reward. That's not negativity. That's life. Now here's what separates the average from the unstoppable. The average person waits for fairness. The Stoic builds power within so strong that nothing external can break them. This doesn't mean you become cold or heartless. It means you stop waiting for the world to treat you right and start treating yourself right regardless of how the world behaves. Seneca once said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage, especially when life seems unfair." Here's what you do instead of complaining. You use the pain as fuel. You build skills so strong they can't be ignored. You love deeply without expectation. You face betrayal and walk forward with dignity. The Stoic approach is radical responsibility, not because it's always your fault, but because it's always your move. You don't get to control how life hits, but you always get to control how you respond. And that response, that grounded, calm, warrior-like response, that's what makes you unstoppable. Fairness is not promised, but freedom is earned. One powerful choice at a time. Number 4, focus on what you can control. The Stoics believe that your power lies in a very small, specific place, inside your control. Everything outside of that, let it go. Epictetus said it simply, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Now, here's the trap most people fall into. They try to control other people. They try to control outcomes. They try to control circumstances. And when they can't, they spiral into anxiety, frustration, and helplessness. But the Stoics knew something profound. Trying to control what you can't control is the fastest path to suffering. Think about it. You can't control what other people say about you. You can't control the economy. You can't control whether someone loves you back. You can't control the weather, traffic, or other people's opinions. But here's what you can control. Your thoughts, your actions, your responses, your character, your effort, your attitude, your choices. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not limiting, that's liberating. Because when you focus your energy on what you can actually influence, you become unstoppable. The average person wastes 80% of their mental energy on things they can't control. They worry about what others think. They stress about future outcomes. They get angry at circumstances. Meanwhile, the Stoic channels all their power into what they can actually change: themselves. This doesn't mean you become passive or give up on goals. It means you become strategic. You focus on your preparation, your effort, your character, your responses. You do everything within your power to influence the outcome, but you don't attach your peace to the result. Here's the brutal truth. Most of your suffering comes from trying to control what's outside your control. Stop doing that and watch how much energy you free up for what actually matters. When you stop fighting reality and start working with it, everything changes. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. It's not about being powerless. It's about being powerful in the right direction. Channel your energy into what you can actually influence and let go of the rest. That's how you build real strength. Number 5, practice voluntary hardship. The modern world tells us to avoid difficulty at all costs, but the Stoics believe that strength comes from voluntarily choosing difficulty. You don't build mental toughness by watching motivational videos. You build it by doing the thing you don't want to do on purpose. Voluntary hardship could look like this: fasting for 24 hours to remind yourself that you control your urges. Taking a cold shower when your mind screams no. Saying no to a luxury you can afford just to sharpen your self-restraint. The Stoics called this ascesis, deliberate practice of discomfort. Why? Because when you voluntarily face small difficulties, you prepare yourself for the big ones that life will inevitably throw at you. You're not waiting for the storm to come and hoping you'll be ready. You're training for it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When you practice voluntary hardship, you're not just building tolerance for discomfort. You're building mastery over it. You're proving to yourself that you can handle more than you think. Here's what happens when you practice voluntary hardship. You stop being a victim to your circumstances. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. You stop making excuses. Instead, you become someone who can thrive in any situation because you've already proven to yourself that you can handle difficulty. This isn't about self-punishment or masochism. It's about self-mastery. It's about building the kind of inner strength that can't be taken away from you. When you voluntarily choose difficulty, you're saying to yourself, "I am stronger than my comfort zone. I can handle more than I think. I am in control of my own growth." The Stoics believe that by practicing voluntary hardship, you become immune to the petty difficulties that break most people. Traffic doesn't ruin your day. A rude comment doesn't destroy your mood. A setback doesn't crush your spirit, because you've already proven to yourself that you can handle much worse. This is how warriors are forged, not in comfort, but in voluntary challenge. Choose one small hardship today and do it. Prove to yourself that you're stronger than your resistance. That's how you become unstoppable. Number 6, embrace death as your teacher. This might sound morbid, but the Stoics believe that death is the ultimate teacher, not because they were obsessed with dying, but because they understood that awareness of death makes you live more fully. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." The Stoics practice something called memento mori, remember that you will die. But this wasn't about fear or depression. It was about urgency, clarity, and purpose. When you remember that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on trivial things. You stop putting off what matters. You stop living for other people's approval. Think about it. If you knew you had 1 year left to live, how would you spend your time? What would you stop doing? What would you start doing? The Stoics believed you should live as if every day could be your last. Not in panic, but in purpose. This awareness of death doesn't make you morbid. It makes you bold. It makes you honest about what really matters. It makes you stop settling for a life that doesn't fulfill you. It makes you take risks worth taking and avoid risks that aren't worth it. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested. The Stoics believe that death awareness is the antidote to procrastination, to people-pleasing, to living someone else's life. When you remember that you will die, you stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for someone else to make you happy. This is how you become unstoppable. You live with the urgency of someone who knows their time is limited, but with the wisdom of someone who knows how to use that time well. You don't waste energy on things that don't matter. You don't waste time on people who don't deserve it. You don't waste life on a version of yourself that doesn't fulfill you. The Stoics believe that death awareness is the key to living fully. Number 7, practice negative visualization. The Stoics believed in a practice called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This sounds pessimistic, but it's actually the opposite. By imagining the worst-case scenarios, you prepare yourself for them and appreciate what you have. Here's how it works. Instead of just hoping for the best, you also prepare for the worst. You imagine losing your job, your health, your relationships, your possessions. But instead of this making you anxious, it makes you grateful for what you have and prepared for what might come. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, 'Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil.'" He wasn't being negative. He was being prepared. The Stoics believe that by practicing negative visualization, you become immune to the shock of misfortune. When bad things happen, you're not surprised. When people disappoint you, you're not devastated. When plans fall apart, you're not broken. This practice doesn't make you pessimistic. It makes you resilient. It helps you appreciate what you have while it's here. It helps you prepare for what might come. It helps you develop the kind of inner strength that can handle anything. Here's the truth. Most people live in denial about the fragility of life. They assume everything will always be the same. They take their health, their relationships, their success for granted. And when things change, they're shattered. But the Stoic practices negative visualization, not to live in fear, but to live in appreciation and preparation. You imagine losing what you love, so you love it more while you have it. You imagine facing difficulty, so you're ready when it comes. You imagine the worst, so you can handle anything. This is how you become unstoppable. You stop being surprised by life's challenges because you've already imagined them. You stop taking things for granted because you've already imagined losing them. You stop being fragile because you've already prepared for difficulty. The Stoics believe that negative visualization is the key to gratitude and resilience. When you regularly imagine the worst-case scenarios, you develop the kind of inner strength that can handle anything life throws at you. You become someone who doesn't just survive challenges, you thrive through them. This isn't about expecting the worst. It's about being prepared for anything. It's about developing the kind of mental toughness that can handle both success and failure, both joy and sorrow, both gain and loss. That's true Stoic strength. Number 8, focus on process, not outcomes. The modern world is obsessed with results. We want quick wins, instant gratification, and guaranteed outcomes. But the Stoics knew something profound. When you tie your worth to outcomes, you become fragile. The moment you tie your worth to discipline, intention, and focus, you become unstoppable. Here's the Stoic mindset shift. Show up like the result is already done, and you're just enjoying the craft. Whether you fail or succeed, bonus, you've already won because you did the work. This isn't about not caring about results. It's about not being dependent on them for your sense of worth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When you focus on process, every obstacle becomes part of the path. Every setback becomes part of the story. Every failure becomes part of the learning. The Stoics believe that the only thing you can truly control is your effort, your intention, your character. You can't control outcomes, but you can control how you show up. You can't control whether you win, but you can control whether you fight with honor. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. This focus on process doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful. When you're not attached to specific outcomes, you're free to take bigger risks. When you're not dependent on external validation, you're free to follow your own path. When you're not worried about failing, you're free to succeed. Here's what happens when you focus on process. You stop being a victim to circumstances. You stop making excuses. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. Instead, you become someone who shows up consistently, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what's happening around you, regardless of what the outcome might be. The Stoics believe that this focus on process is the key to true freedom. When you're not attached to outcomes, you're free to do what's right, even when it's hard. When you're not dependent on results, you're free to take the long view. When you're not worried about failing, you're free to aim high. This is how you become unstoppable. You focus on what you can control, your effort, your intention, your character, and let go of what you can't control, the outcome. You show up like the work is its own reward, because it is. You do the right thing because it's right, not because of what you'll get from it. The Stoics believe that when you focus on process, you develop the kind of inner strength that can't be taken away from you. You become someone who doesn't just succeed when things go well. You become someone who thrives regardless of circumstances. You become someone who doesn't just win when the conditions are perfect. You become someone who shows up regardless of conditions. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about raising your game. It's about focusing on what you can actually control and becoming excellent at that. It's about developing the kind of character that can handle both success and failure with grace. That's true Stoic strength. When you focus on process, you become unstoppable because you're no longer dependent on external circumstances for your sense of worth. You're free to do what's right, even when it's hard. You're free to take the long view, even when it's uncomfortable. You're free to be excellent, regardless of what anyone else is doing. That's the power of focusing on process. That's the power of Stoic discipline. That's how you become truly unstoppable. The power of integrity in action. The Stoics believe that true strength comes from living with integrity, doing what's right even when it's hard, even when no one is watching, even when it costs you something. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being principled. Now here's the hard part. Doing the right thing is often the hard thing. It's easier to lie. It's easier to impress than to be authentic. It's easier to chase approval than to stand alone. But every time you choose what's right over what's easy, you build a soul that can't be bought. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The Stoics didn't just talk about virtue, they lived it. They didn't just preach about character, they practiced it. They didn't just teach about integrity, they embodied it. This is how you become unstoppable. You develop the kind of character that can't be compromised. You become someone who does what's right because it's right, not because of what you'll get from it. You become someone who stands firm in your principles, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's costly, even when it's lonely. The Stoics believed that integrity is the foundation of all other virtues. Without it, nothing else matters. You can be smart, talented, and successful, but if you lack integrity, you're just a sophisticated version of what you're trying to avoid. But when you have integrity, everything else falls into place. Here's what happens when you live with integrity. You stop being afraid of being exposed because you have nothing to hide. You stop worrying about what others think because you know who you are. You stop making excuses because you know what you stand for. You become someone who can look yourself in the mirror and be proud of what you see. The Stoics believe that integrity is the key to inner peace. When you live in alignment with your values, you don't have to carry the weight of guilt, shame, or regret. You don't have to worry about being found out because you're not hiding anything. You don't have to live in fear because you're not living a lie. This isn't about being self-righteous or judgmental. It's about being authentic. It's about living in alignment with your deepest values. It's about becoming someone you can respect, someone you can trust, someone you can be proud of. The Stoics believe that when you live with integrity, you become magnetic. People are drawn to authenticity. They're drawn to someone who stands firm in their principles. They're drawn to someone who does what's right, even when it's hard. You become someone others want to follow, not because you're perfect, but because you're principled. This is how you become unstoppable. You develop the kind of character that can't be shaken by external circumstances. You become someone who does what's right because it's right, regardless of what anyone else is doing. You become someone who stands firm in your principles, even when the world around you is crumbling. The Stoics believe that integrity is the ultimate form of strength. It's not about being the strongest or the smartest or the most successful. It's about being the most principled. It's about being someone who can be trusted, someone who can be relied upon, someone who can be counted on to do what's right. When you live with integrity, you become unstoppable because you're no longer dependent on external validation for your sense of worth. You know who you are. You know what you stand for. You know what you're willing to fight for. And that kind of inner strength can't be taken away from you. That's the power of integrity. That's the power of living with principles. That's how you become truly unstoppable. These 8 brutal Stoic laws aren't just philosophy. They're a blueprint for becoming unstoppable, They're not just ancient wisdom. They're modern weapons for navigating a chaotic world. They're not just theories. They're practices that will transform your mind, your character, and your life. But here's the thing. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. Understanding without application is just intellectual masturbation. These laws will only work if you work them. They will only transform you if you commit to transformation. The Stoics didn't just study philosophy, they lived it. They didn't just talk about virtue, they practiced it. They didn't just teach about strength, they embodied it. And that's what made them unstoppable. Now it's your turn. Now it's time to stop being a spectator and start being a participant. Now it's time to stop consuming content and start creating character. Now it's time to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start making every moment perfect. These 8 laws are for the real ones, the ones who want more than noise, who want to live with purpose, who want to become unstoppable. They're for the ones who are tired of being pushed around by their emotions, their circumstances, their comfort zones. They're for the ones who are ready to take responsibility for their own growth, their own happiness, their own success. Remember, do not skip any parts of your life. It's all training. It's all transformation. Every challenge is an opportunity. Every setback is a setup. Every obstacle is a chance to prove what you're made of. Keep showing up. Keep choosing strength. Keep practicing these laws until they become second nature. Keep pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. Keep building the kind of character that can handle anything life throws at you. And don't stop until you become unstoppable. The ancient Stoics knew something that most people today have forgotten. True strength comes from within. It comes from discipline, from integrity, from the willingness to do what's right even when it's hard. It comes from the commitment to growth, to excellence, to becoming the best version of yourself. These 8 laws are your roadmap to that strength. They're your blueprint for becoming unstoppable. They're your weapons for navigating a world that wants to keep you weak, comfortable, and dependent. Use them, practice them, live them, become unstoppable. The choice is yours. The power is yours. The transformation is yours. Now go and claim it.